I am not minded to write to the Prime Minister, as I am sure that the situation in the Gaza Strip is already uppermost in his mind.
To clarify, is a summary of your answer no to a simple letter on Gaza, no to action on the pension fund, and no to justice for Palestinians?
Shame on the lot of you.
I would have liked the opportunity to make a couple of points.
As I write this question, there is a fragile ceasefire in Gaza. However, Israel's assault on Palestinians in the Gaza Strip has killed tens of thousands of Palestinians, almost half of them children. In January, the International Court of Justice, the World Court, handed down an interim ruling affirming there is plausible evidence of Israel committing genocidal acts against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. As a state party to the Genocide Convention, the UK has a binding obligation to employ all means reasonably available to prevent and deter further genocidal acts. We all have a responsibility to stand with Palestinians in the face of such catastrophic violence and to do everything in our power to bring such suffering to an end. From the obligations laid out by the ICJ, councils must avoid procuring from or investing the funds they manage, including local government pension scheme funds, in companies that facilitate Israel's breaches of international law. Will the leader of the council write to the Labour Prime Minister calling for him to do everything he can to bring about a permanent ceasefire, for the return of all hostages and for an end to the UK's arms trade with Israel? Secondly, ask our representative on the Berkshire Pension Fund panel to call for and report back to Policy Committee urgently on the pension fund divesting A, from companies complicit in Israel's attacks on Palestinians, and B, and those on the UN's list of businesses involved in activities in the occupied Palestinian territories and deemed complicit in human rights abuses. 3, oppose Reading Council entering into contracts with such companies in future. Thank you.
Last week, the Council hosted the Holocaust Memorial Day event, and yesterday marked the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, and if my references are correct, the 30th anniversary of the genocide in Bosnia. I reference these events because when Councillor White says we all have a responsibility to stand with Palestine in the face of such catastrophic violence and do everything in our power to bring such suffering to an end, I am reminded that in remembering past events which challenged our sense of humanity, we all too often respond to the next terrible acts by calling for us all to be on one side or another. For me, all killing is wrong, and I stand with those families whose lives were torn apart by the events of 7th October 2023.
And since.
And with those whose lives have been lost and devastated by the Israeli government's response. But in answer to the specific requests, I am not minded to write to the Prime Minister, as I am sure that the situation in the Gaza Strip is already uppermost in his mind, and his government is already doing what it can to bring about an end to the violence, the surge of humanitarian aid to Gaza, and with the UK standing ready to do everything it can to support a permanent and peaceful solution. Most of this taken from a statement by the Prime Minister on the 19th of January. Councillor White's second request was that we call for action from the Berkshire Pension Fund on limiting investments. I refer Councillor White to a response given to him by the then leader, Councillor Brock, back in December 2021. In that response, he reminded you once again that Reading Borough Council does not manage the pension fund. The fund, administered by the Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, acting on behalf of all the local authorities in Berkshire, has been contacted. A response has been received, which is too long and detailed to be included here, but I would draw your attention to the following. The fund's investments are managed under full delegation by the local pensions partnerships investments, invested primarily through pooled investment vehicles. So in order to get a more detailed, updated response, I will need to forward your email to them. This information is not available for this meeting. The fund has fully delegated the implementation of its investment strategy to LPPI, so any disinvestment decisions will be made by them, based on their investment research and due diligence activities. This also includes consideration of the fund's responsible investment policy. This policy, along with LPPI's responsible investments frameworks, ensures that environmental, social and governance considerations are part of investment decisions. The report went on to say, I would also refer you to the Council's opinion obtained in October 2024 by the Local Government Pension Scheme Advisory Board on the Local Government Pension Scheme and implications of the current events concerning Gaza, which can be found here, and I provided the link. Rather than agreeing to your request at point 2A and B, I suggest that you consider the information provided in the link above and the range of information easily available from the pension fund itself. The Council's representative will continue to monitor LPPI's management of investments and engage with them regarding responsible investment considerations. With regard to point 3, I would remind Councillor White of the Council's ethical investment statement in our Treasury Management Strategy, which I was certain he already knew. 1.86. The Council will not knowingly invest directly in businesses whose activities and practices pose a risk of serious harm to individuals or groups, or whose activities are inconsistent with the Council's corporate plan and values. This would include institutions with material links to human rights abuse, environmentally harmful activities, socially harmful activities. 1.87. Further, the Council will only invest in countries deemed as free, as per the Freedom House Global Freedom Rating System. This Council strengthened this statement to include human rights abuse to cover, amongst other areas, political oppression. The principles in this statement are applicable to all investments made by the Council. The Council checked potential contractors against its policies, as I've outlined just now. However, it should be noted that although the Council endeavours to know the backgrounds of those companies with whom we contract, we cannot know all their funding sources or affiliations.
Thank you, Councillor Terry. Do we have a supplementary, Councillor White?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the answer, Councillor Terry. To clarify, is a summary of your answer no to a simple letter on Gaza, no to action on the pension fund, and no to justice for Palestinians?
Councillor Terry.
I think if Councillor White would like to reread it, he'll see that that is not the case. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Terry. We'll move on now to the next item on the agenda, item 7.
Before you move on, is it possible to make a couple of points?
Excuse me, there are no public statements at this meeting, I'm afraid, and could you please just remain seated?
In that case, we'll leave and we will take this up later on. Thank you,
Okay.
Councillor Terry, for your pack of lies.
Thank you. Okay, so item 7.
Shame.
Item 7. Right to use for children. Councillor Terry to move.
Okay, I would have liked the opportunity to have made a couple of points in this Reading Council meeting, but as it was sprung upon us in the last few days, we hadn't already put anything in. However, I did take exception to the fact that Councillor Terry mentions that the Council will not knowingly invest directly in businesses whose activities and practices pose serious risk of serious harm to individuals, groups, etc., human rights abuses, environmentally harmful activities. Surely in that case, it is quite clear that the Council can make decisions and direct LPPI, their investment company, to make the decisions they want and to exclude certain companies like those that are arming Israel, that are arming a genocide, and that are continuing to breach international law by supplying arms to Israel and supporting this rogue state. Further down, it also mentions that the Council will only invest in countries deemed as free, as per Freedom House Global Freedom Rating System. I would question, is a country that has never defined its borders, i.e. Israel, a free country that we should take notice of?
Okay, let's see the dress without the... That's it. Palestinian dress.
Sing now, sing now. Who wants to hear Stella's wonderful song?
Yes.
This is something to video.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Go on, sing, Stella, sing.
There'll be sunbirds flying high over the Golan, and from the river to the sea. There'll be joy and laughter and peace ever after, the day when Palestine is free. The shepherd will tend his sheep, the valleys will bloom again, and Jabari will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be sunbirds flying high over the Golan, the day when Palestine is free. Free, free, Palestine!